Negative keywords are a really important strategy to Google Ads for basically optimizing your campaigns. Now, they're not as important as they used to be. They are still used, they are still important, but they don't have the same level of significance that they did 3 years ago. The reason is, again, I've said a lot throughout this course, but media buying has become more broad. And you can see that with how the keyword modifiers consulted. You see this in other platforms. Right now, everything's just becoming more broad and relies a lot more heavily on machine learning, even than it did in the past. So, like, just a lot of conversion bidding. But basically, when it comes down to negative keywords, they're still useful. And we're going to look at pretty much what they are, where they are, how they work. So negative keywords, they basically show up, you put them in here. You put them in here, and basically how this works is I have some lists in here, and we'll talk about these later. But you put the negative keywords in here, and they will basically behave one of several ways. So negative keywords also have modifiers. They have the match types to them. And this makes them really confusing. Now, as keywords for targeting have gotten more broad, negative keyword modifiers haven't really changed. So we're going to actually pull up the Google support docs on these and take a look at their definitions. But there's basically exact match, phrase match, and broad match keywords, negative keywords. So here's how this works. So we have the broad match example, the phrase match example, and then the exact match example. So we'll start with exact. Now, if we applied for an ad group targeting exact match, targeting running shoes, right? And we had a whole bunch of stuff showing up, and we found that like running shoes by itself, for whatever reason, wasn't converting, and we decided we didn't want to run ads for it anymore because it spent $500 and didn't get a sale. We can, but these other ones were working for some reason. Shoes running, blue running shoes, running shoe. If these were still working and this one just had, maybe the CPCs were like $50 or just really high, we could exact match negative just this keyword and still let these other ones run. We could actually just cut that one out by adding it as a negative keyword. So, again, this is for terms that maybe just aren't profitable, and they are, it's probably because the CPCs are just very, very high. And we'll talk more about bidding and auctions later. Phrase negative keywords. Now, this is where it's basically like phrase match keywords used to be, where it's this phrase in this order without being broken up in the middle, right? So if we added this to an ad group or campaign, running shoes, phrase match negative, right? This would not show. This would not show because they contain running shoes in that order. So you can see this, like, it blocks out the exact match from below, but it gets even a little bit more stuff. So if there's something in front or after running, as long as it contains running shoes in the search term in the phrase, right, because it's a phrase match, then this ad will not show. So phrase match negative keywords block out that phrase with words before or after. Now you could see like it's the order is shoes running here. The order is flipped. It's still gonna show running shoe. It's not plural, so it's still gonna show. So this is important because keywords now have this whole close variant thing going on where they'll actually show ads for plural searches and stuff like that, but negative keywords are still more specific. They don't work that way. So you could think of these as how keywords used to work, but to remove search terms from being associated with a keyword. And then the broad match ones are pretty much interesting. These are basically if they contain any of these words in any order, or all of these words in any order. So you could see running shoes, shoes running, they're flipped, blue running shoes, right? It's any of these words in any order in the search term. So this is like broad match modified used to work. So none of these will show up because it's just, they contain both of these words. But running shoe, right? Running shoe doesn't say shoes. So it has to have both of them. It can't be pluralizations or close matches. It has to be these words exactly. So this will still show the ad. And then this one doesn't say running, it says tennis. But if it said blue running shoes like down here, it would actually block out. It would negative, it would apply a negative effect to that keyword and not show for these search terms anymore. And then blue tennis shoes, right? So you could see they're a little confusing, and the only way to really learn this is just to practice it. These examples are good. And there's some more stuff in here that's just like a little bit more interesting. I think you might still be able to use like minus signs in here, but that's more advanced. I've really found no reason to ever really use these. But, refer to the documentation, play around with it, and basically just to go through a couple of examples real quick. If we go back into our Zodiac Jewelry ad group, and I'm really just using this one because it has the most data in here. It had the most spend, clicks, most impressions. If we go back and look at the search terms, and one of them said like Chinese or something like that. I don't know where that is. But anyway, there's a few ways we might want to approach this. So like, let's say none of these really spent a significant amount of money, so there's not really a good example of that. But Leo Jewelry here, for example, spent the most amount of money. So let's say let's just pretend it was $700 and this didn't get a single sale. I would exact match exclude this keyword. I wouldn't want to run ads for it anymore. And I would do it at the campaign level. We could do it at the ad group level, but you can see some of these may actually serve for Leo just because of the broad matches. There may be a potential that would happen. So I usually just apply negative. Like if it's not working in one ad group, it's probably not going to work in the others. And that's not always the case. It really comes down to being analytical and checking. But I usually don't use exact match negatives at all. I'm just trying to explain the concept. Now, if I decided I didn't want to bid on anything with the word, like, look at this, breast cancer, right? Like cancer is a zodiac sign, but we don't do anything with breast cancer. So I would say anything that contains the word breast, I would want to completely remove, because we don't really want to bid for anything with breast or breast cancer. So if we search the search terms and just type breast, now we're going to get an idea of anything that showed for the word breast. So there's actually a lot of stuff here, right, for breast cancer. So now let's see if there's anything that is breast without cancer that might be relevant, because basically what I like to do is use phrase match negatives. So just to pull up a notepad, I would do this, because after looking at this, it's pretty clear that anything with the word breast in it is going to contain probably the word cancer. We basically, like, I can't think of anything jewelry related that we would want to have the word breast in any way. So you can add multiple filters in here too. But basically, let's say like anything that contains the word breast without cancer, it's probably gonna be nothing. So yeah, so like I would just exclude the word breast, but I would also do breast cancer, and that ensures that we're not going to show for any of these anymore. So this is a pretty good example of something that's not relevant. And if we wanted to, we could even do, because then it might say cancer of the breast. It's that's probably not going to happen, but we could do it like this. So I usually don't go too crazy with these. It's usually the phrase match of the one word that's really just showing up a bunch of nonsense. It's not always the case, but it really comes down to how specific do you need to be with this. And now, as far as where do you put negative keywords, we're gonna go into that in the next video with lists, and we're gonna talk about that in this section. That's the next video.